This is the Octantis, one of Viking's expedition cruise ships. And if you sail her on the Great Lakes, you're going to be busy. This video will show the activities I did on water, on land, and even under the water. The Octantis is a beautiful, relatively new ship. I've done a separate video about the ship itself, which you can find on my channel. We began our week-long cruise in Thunder Bay, Ontario. We were departing on July 1. That's Canada Day, so maybe that's why we got this send-off. One of the first activities after boarding was this opportunity to learn about the excursions.
Lake Huron and across to Lake Michigan. So this is our plan. One thing on expeditions, I'm sure you've all heard, flexibility, being flexible. Well, most of our operations and all our expedition operations are very much depending on the weather. Zodiacs, these are Mark V Zodiacs.
I encourage you to make time for this presentation. It really sets the entire cruise up for you. For any excursion off the ship, the first thing you have to do is, well, leave the ship. Landing at Silver Islet would be our first excursion off of the ship in Lake Superior.
Man, this lake is great.
And with the exception of Duluth, that meant on this cruise we either took the tenders or sometimes we took the Zodiacs to get to land. For Silver Islet, it was the tender. They also serve as the lifeboats, but I have never needed one for that purpose. Before each shore landing, Viking sends some personnel ahead, and they establish a place where you can get advice or just find your way back to the ship if you decide you're done. Now, we didn't have an escorted excursion here, we just went for a little walk. And although I'm tempted to explain to you how proud I am that I was able to say escorted excursion on the first try, let's have a look around instead. Turns out Silver Islet is a very small town. It also turns out that most of the residents are only seasonal. A little later in the day, we would see the raison d'etre for this community. Maybe you'll want a snack or a souvenir. Not to worry, there's a general store. By the way, the people that run it are wonderful. I got a coffee and what I thought was a donut. It's not a donut, it's a Persian, but only I chastised myself about it. Late that morning, back to the ship we went, but we would be going out again twice. The town of Silver Islet came to exist because of the vast silver that was found underneath it. But see, here's the thing, the silver wasn't under the town, it was under the lake and under this little island here. And between 1868 and 1884, this was the richest strike of silver anywhere in the world. But the mining of the silver involved digging deep shafts, and those shafts required breakwaters and large pumps to protect them from flooding. The pumps were coal-powered, and when a shipment didn't arrive, well, you can take a look and see what happened to the shaft. I'm going to call that flooded. Apparently it has been since 1884. Now, this particular off-ship experience was by Zodiac. When you're out on a Zodiac, you get one of the expedition team to be your guide, and they were exceptional in every instance. Not all of them have spent a lot of time in the Great Lakes, but what you could tell right away was they were genuinely excited about learning themselves and genuinely enthusiastic about telling you what they had learned. I'll just interject here, I never did the kayaking, but look at that, that looks pretty fun. The Octantis carries kayaks. Oh, also that darker patch on the bow that isn't for the anchor, that's a picture window from the hide. You'll have to find the hide. Here's the proof that the Octantis fits through the locks on the Great Lakes, but not by a lot. For our third off-ship experience in Silver Islet of the day, we left the ship from a different location. That's because we would be on the Special Operations boat. What's a Special Operations boat? Well, it's actually military technology. It was designed to carry troops. It can be airdropped into position, and it can go up to 40 knots. First, we were covering the same areas as the Zodiacs had. For example, here we come up on the silver mine again.
And they had to have big pumps to get into the silver mine to see if there's anything down here.
But I would say the main difference is on the Zodiacs you have a destination, whereas the Special Operations boat is a destination in and of itself. It's just a lot of fun. Now that's not to say you didn't see interesting things from the Special Operations boat, like for example this bald eagle. Now here's a tip. The Zodiacs have space for everyone, but the Special Operations boats do not. When the excursions for your cruise open up, sign up right away.
And then last year in 2024, anyway, not the whole lake, but this part of it freezes up, and and once every 4 hours I call that into the Coast Guard, and they record it on a frequency and play. No rain.
As we came back to the Octantis, we got to see one of the coolest features it has. The stern is designed to deploy the Special Operations boats, and while they can deploy them with the full complement of passengers, for our cruise, the very pleasant crew helped us get on and off the ship. Sometimes your Zodiac excursion may be at 8 in the morning. I think this shows why it's worth it. As is the case on the river cruises, on Viking excursion cruises there are very few activities that you have to pay extra to do. But the bus excursion to the Schreiber Railway Museum and Aguasabon Falls was extra. Now I don't want to be one of those people that always mispronounces names, so if I didn't say the falls name correctly, I don't know, leave me a comment, do it phonetically, yell at me, I'm trying. Anyway. Terrace Bay is not a big place, and it's certainly not a cruise port, so our bus was literally a school bus, and our guide was the mayor of one of the local communities. First up was the Schreiber Railway Museum, which was carefully curated by essentially one guy, and it came out really well. It's divided into 3 sections, and let's call it small but thorough. This railway car was full of artifacts relevant to the railroad industry and also to the town of Schreiber. A lot of things had been found in people's basements. And, though small, Schreiber had its own version of Monopoly. I don't know how I feel about museums having things like the 7-Up bottle I remember from my childhood. But the majority of exhibits were older than I was.
In the basement, and we had to make sure it was clean.
So that was the first part. The second part was actually a film presented in another railway car. It was about how the railroad finally came through this part of Ontario. This isn't it. This is just a neat special effect that made you feel like you were in a moving car. And then this building, which is really the entry hall, is the third part of the museum. This exhibit about Japanese prisoners of war in World War II was really interesting.
This is a picture of the last VIA rail train. It comes through here now. There's about 20, 24 trains a day that they used to build the railroad from.
And this wall displayed the history of the logo for Canadian Pacific Railway.
It's a 40-mile section of railroad.
After a little over an hour, it was back to the bus for the trip to the falls. Once at the falls, we were given a choice either to simply go to the viewing area or to hike all the way back down to where the Zodiacs would take us back to the ship. We chose the shorter walk, but boy, I'm glad we went. So our day in Terrace Bay was a good one. But oh boy, what was to come the next day.
We have a steady wind of about.
On this day in 2025, the 50th anniversary year of the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, I was going to go in a submersible. We were going to go 250 feet deep to see a shipwreck in Lake Superior. This was just crazy. Submersible carried 6 passengers and a pilot, so we were assigned our seats, and then we headed out. The submersibles are yellow, and Octantis carries John and Paul. The sister ship Polaris carries George and Ringo, by the way. I guess we know where the name came from. This is not an inexpensive excursion. In fact, it's the most expensive thing you could do on the entire cruise. But I suggest you save up so you can do it. Although I wouldn't recommend it if you're claustrophobic. First things first, the safety briefing.
Wake up. And if you don't touch this one or this one for 10 minutes, the sub will go beep, 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 and then it will go back to the surface by itself.
We would be submersing down to the wreck of the luxury yacht Grunilda, which had sunk in 1911. And I really think this part works best without narration, so take a look.
Okay, I'm now pushing this little button here. It says vent. It means that we open the vent valves that we have on top of the black patches you stepped on before. It will release the air we have inside of our diving tanks. They will get filled with water, but we will still be afloat.
After about half an hour, we resurfaced.
We'll turn you guys back in.
See the surface.
Just down. Make sure that we flush out all the liquids.
Coming back to the surface.
Calling for your information now.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I did this, and it's not at all like what I thought it would be. For example, I thought it would be cramped. It wasn't. I thought it might be uncomfortable. It wasn't. I thought it might be hard to see. It wasn't. And let's cover this part. I thought it might make physical demands on me that I couldn't take. I'm a bigger guy, I'm not huge, but I was worried about the size of the hatch and then the seats. There was no problem whatsoever with those, and the physical strenuousness of it is not very challenging at all. You need to be able to squat and stand back up.
Copy, traffic.
Back on the surface meant back to the ship by Zodiac. And just fortuitously, a little bit later, I was in the right place at the right time, so I got to see them bringing the submersibles back aboard.
Very interesting. Good. You got it turned on okay? Yeah,
Now you might have noticed in that video that the weather here at McGarvey Shoals was not really the best. It was overcast, and for a lot of people it was cold. It was probably under 50 degrees. But as a result, instead of going out on the Zodiac that afternoon, I got to go out on the special operations boat again. There had been cancellations. Apparently that's not super common, but keep your ears open. You might luck into something. So it was back into the shock-absorbing seats, and after a friendly send-off by the crew, we were underway for a scenic cruise. And it was indeed scenic, but I'm guilty of just liking the idea of zipping around fast on the lake. From this position you can really see how the Octantis deploys its various toys and craft. Now I know I'm guilty of saying it over and over, but do find yourself time for the special operations boat. The next morning we sailed into Duluth. I've done a separate video about the actual sailing. And here we found ourselves at a proper pier with nothing that the ship had planned for us. But that was okay because we know from a prior trip that there's a world-class cat cafe here, Wired Whisker. If you're familiar with the other videos on this channel, you already know that if there's a cat cafe that we can get to, we're going to go to it. I'm going to show you around the cat cafe very quickly here, but if you like this sort of thing, honestly, this is one of the best I've ever been to. Please go. The cats are well cared for and they're adoptable. I did check, I'm not allowed to bring a cat back onto the ship. The balance of our short time went to having lunch and doing a little shopping. Bye, Duluth. Between you and me, I think that says Mackinac, but I was corrected. That's Mackinac Island, and it was a very popular spot. It's a tender port, which means you take a tender to port, and in our case, because we had a walking tour scheduled, we did it quite early. And as a result, initially at least, we beat the crowds. Mackinac in many ways looks like it's still preserved in the turn of the century from the 19th to the 20th century. And if people know one thing about it, that tends to be that there are no motor vehicles here. Well, there are, but there's no motor vehicles that private people can drive around the island. We would be exploring by foot, but you can rent a bicycle, you can even rent a horse, or you can go in a horse-drawn carriage like a taxi. There's plenty of ways to get around. It's undeniably beautiful, but it will not be lost on you that this is a place where some pretty wealthy people live. Even more, it will not be lost on you that those pretty wealthy people live here only part of the year. But for them, oh boy, que magnifico. But you can come or go by ferry, and you don't have to be rich to find a place to stay on the island. And given that I see the Octantis now and I'm reminded that that's how I arrived, I'm going to stop talking about spending money. Hey look, there's a seaplane. Let's just have a look around and enjoy these beautiful homes.
People that they were anti-slavery patrons and they purchased.
This little stone church was not particularly old. I guess nothing on the island really is, but it was pretty neat. A lot of people know that the Mackinac Grand Hotel is something to be seen, but it has a secret garden, and that was equally impressive, if not more so. I did a separate short video about this garden, but you get the idea. Really beautiful. And there's the hotel. Now it really is reserved for guests, so pretty much what you do is you come up to a spot that's marked the photo point. It actually says something like that on the sign, and you take a photo of it, and then you leave. Oh, there it is, photo spot. I'm glad I got a photo of the photo spot. Genuinely respectful of the fact that not just anybody can wander into the hotel. Our tour turned back toward the main drag, but then we got caught in a lot of heavy traffic. Mackinac gives you the chance to be among beautiful buildings, to find a few activities, and just to enjoy where you are. And there are a number of good places to eat or to get souvenirs, or even some interesting shops. We found a couple of bookshops that were really worth going into. But as a port of call, we were just a little bit rushed. We didn't have time to do the museum. Not sure we would have anyway, but we were conscious of the fact that we had about 4 hours here total. Oh, and by the way, I'm reminded that I must have been thinking about geologic time when I said there was not a lot of really old stuff here when we were looking at the old stone church. There are things here that are clearly from the 1600s and 1700s, and certainly more stuff that's even older than that not in town. There's a lot of things that we didn't even begin to see. Even though it's a small island, there's a lot here. Now I'm just going to take a moment. If you're liking this video, please click the thumbs up and consider subscribing. If you don't, not only will I make more bad puns, but I'll make you carry your luggage through town. I mean, they're young and fit, but there are horse-drawn taxis if you need one. Okay, real quick, we're going to confuse you.
Yeah.
We took the next to last tender back to the ship. It was only about noon. And on the way back, the tender was really quite full. A lot of people had tried to maximize their stay. But we did manage to get this great view of the Grand Hotel as we left. Now after that morning at Mackinac Island, we continued our trip and we were going under the Mackinac Bridge. This is an enormous bridge. It's very impressive and you can understand why everyone came out to take a look as we passed under it. For our final experience aboard the Octantis, found myself on the bow, nearly alone, first watching one of the giant freighters go by, and then watching a beautiful sunset. This was a pretty great way to end our last evening aboard. It's strange to have the bow to myself, but I don't mind. And there you go. If you didn't get a chance to see my video on the ship itself, I'll try to remember to link it in the comments. And if you liked this video, please click on that little thumbs up button. It really helps. Better yet, if you subscribe, you'll see my future videos and more people will see them. I'm guessing I'll never understand YouTube's algorithm, but it works. Anyway, you'll see me in my next video. Bye.